Hi, I'm Jennifer Potter, Executive Director of Be Well Texas. Too many people are struggling alone these days, and alcohol and drug deaths are increasing. We started Be Well Texas to offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere, virtually or in person. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment or medications if you don't have insurance. Really. Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here. Visit bewelltexas.org.
Andy, the only thing that says squaring around that touches this body is made by Elite Sports, baby. You know where to get it, elitesports.com. They have a full slate of athletes that they also support. Use code SQUARE. Get 10% off. What do you have to say about the fine folks that we got at Elite Sports?
I think the coolest thing about Elite Sports is they have customized stuff for the athletes. I always think it's cool when athletes have their own merch brand, and they've done an incredible job of supporting the athletes at Texas State in the past and in the future. And as NIL gets bigger and bigger, it's important to have a partner that is going to help make sure our athletes stay at Texas State. Elite Sports does that.
My favorite thing is that vintage Ben McClain shirt that I have. They do that stuff from time to time. So I'm going to probably scoop another athlete here in a little bit for these cold months. You know, might as well rock our stuff. Support the brand, elitesports.com. Use code SQUARE at checkout.
Jacob, there's a reason they call it home field advantage, and it's because of home field apparel. They make sure that you feel like you have an advantage when it comes to your college and your college brand. Look, they do a great job. I grew up a Minnesota Golden Gopher fan, a West Virginia Mountaineer fan. We're going to get the Texas State gear at some point, but they have so many different colleges. They got hats, they got shirts. You do not want to miss it. And let me tell you, the shirts, immaculate. They are the softest shirts I've ever had, Jacob. They're so great.
I'm not giving up on home field. Neither should you. Use code SQUARE at checkout. Support the brand, baby. I hate playing away games too. You're right. Who would want to sacrifice home field advantage?
I feel like I'm in home field advantage every time I'm wearing home field apparel. What's up, everybody?
Back to monetizing Zimmy and Jakey hangout time. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Squaring Around. This is the show where we talk about everything Texas State, including women's sports. If you didn't watch last week's episode, we got a great conversation with Coach Sean Hewitt into conference play. Our beloved Bobcat volleyball team returns to sunny San Marcos on October 4th to play in front of a home crowd. They're road dogging, and that's what we got into last week with Sean Hewitt. This week, we're previewing the Sam Houston State game after a very long bye week. I know it was a very long bye week for Andrew, very long bye week for myself, and we're ready to get back to covering Bobcat football.
Yeah, man. And I saw Danfus went to El Paso to check out the team. My question is then, in turn, do you think he goes to Spokane, Washington to check out the team if we're in the Pac-12? I don't think so.
That dude travels all over the place. I don't know if he flew in or he drove in. I know he's a kind of a big driver.
No way. There's no way that dude drove the entire West Texas
I've been
straight.
Everywhere, man.
Absolutely.
Everywhere,
Kelly Danfus. Also, if that's the case, I want to see your receipts. I need to see the receipts if we are paying for that gas as an institution. I need to see where you're filling up. Are you a Buc-ee's guy? What's the snack situation?
He's a huge Buc-ee's guy. Which is why I thought it was going to be Buc-ee's Stadium. You know,
is that why he is so locked in on student media? Because he has time to read and watch and listen to everything.
Other than the fact that he's in town, yeah.
Well, I mean, but if you're driving around everywhere, you just throw the audio, spoken.
KTSW.
I listened to KTSW the other day. I was driving around and I threw it on.
You can listen in on the It's the TuneIn app.
The app.
Yeah.
Well, you can listen to TuneIn app, or you can go to the Texas State app. It's there too.
If you ever missing a slice of home, get on the TuneIn app. Tune in to KTSW 89.9.
Yeah, jump in on a Friday, and you can listen to the Rattler football games.
Ooh, there you go. And then because you
you
would always be doing basically air checks for them because KTSW would go offline all the time. That was one of your responsibilities to make sure that we're still on.
What's crazy?
I guess it continues to be in your real job.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy because nobody. Okay, a little behind the curtains. Nobody else does this except me. It feels like when a broadcast goes live. So let's say, because we're going to talk to Brant Freeman here in a bit. Let's say Brant Freeman goes live on KTSW. But let's say he's also on another station too. What I do is I listen to both stations to make sure they're on the air. It doesn't seem like anybody else does that. And I'm not getting paid extra to do that. I'm just wanting to make sure that my broadcast is, on the air. Shocking. I'm just surprised.
Something else, I guess, that's shocking is that Texas State, Sam Houston, the all-time series is tied up at 4-4, 8 all-time games between the two teams.
All right. Now, if you would have told me that before we talked to Brant, I would have been like, this isn't a route. 8 games, and we're like talking like this is like David versus Goliath.
Hey, I thought you would have done some pre-homework. I don't know.
I did a little bit.
I guess you're the same guy that didn't know we were on a bye week last week. Though.
I didn't. I was like, where the hell's the game?
Well, I can't find it on the channel.
I can't find it on the clicker. Where's the game?
If you're wondering what my setup is now, I'm in my childhood bedroom in the Valley. This week, I'm actually intimate. Tomorrow, we're talking about like some FCS schools. I'm checking out UTRGV, the Vaqueros at practice.
Getting your masters, huh?
Yeah, you might have. They need a quarterback. What do the
I'll
be at practice tomorrow, checking things out. A lot of Texas State connections on that staff. The headman himself. Travis
we don't care
Bush.
about that.
Oh, you don't. I was going to set this whole thing up.
Show us the bed sheets. What do the bed sheets look like in the childhood bedroom?
You don't want to look at this right now. It's a mess. I got a book, my iPad, several SD cards, water bottles empty. No,
is that what
I'm painting a picture for you?
SD cards.
SD cards. Yes, they are, and they're not corrupted. Thank God. I was able to save a few of them because this podcast almost ruined my life 2 weeks ago trying to get that one out. Into that Thursday night game against Arizona State.
Jacob Rodriguez, famously known as the Black Cat of broadcast.
Well, before last year, we were the bad boys of sports journalism at Texas State. Ooh,
yeah, now we're propaganda.
These guys
machine.
Are swearing now. Yeah, we're swearing around.
Clean pod. You see those Mickey Mouse ears behind you? Clean pod.
Boom. Is being a Disney adult the biggest turnoff for you on a dating app?
No, being a cannibal is.
Like I said, this week we're previewing Sam Houston State versus Texas State, the Bearkats versus the Bobcats, coming to you from NRG Stadium. Zimmel and I will be out there, so if you see us, say hello. Here is our conversation with the Brant Freeman.
Tired of winning the tailgate but losing the games? We can't help that. But we can tell you what the hell is up with each team and what's going on across sunny San Marcos. Texas State fans, get on your feet. You're listening to Squarin' Around with Jacob Rodriguez and Andrew Zimmel.
Welcome back to Squarin' Around, everybody. I'm Jacob Rodriguez. That's Andrew Zimmel, the Texas State Sports Press. This is the show where we talk about everything happening at Texas State. We are joined this week by Brant Freeman, Texas State's voice, the man behind the screen now. Brant is also the same guy that said my name at graduation. So it's really kind of a full circle moment for us at the pod. And that happened at Bobcat Stadium. Boom. So Brant, thank you for joining the show, man. I feel like this has been like kind of a long time coming. We've been always kind of talking about it. And now we finally did it this season. So thank you again.
Yeah, you got it. And by the way, when I introduce myself, I first start with, I'm the guy that called Jacob Rodriguez's name at graduation, then the guy that calls the games on TV.
That's my guy. Yeah.
Don't blow the ego up like this. Don't start like this.
Zimmel famously Zimmel did not walk, has not walked, had, I guess, an opportunity to this semester, if he still wanted to, hasn't done it yet. So.
Because I want Brant to introduce himself as I'm the guy who didn't say Andrew Zimmel's name as he walked across the stage.
He just wants another tally mark.
To be fair to me and to you, Andrew, so I didn't start becoming a name reader until right around the pandemic started. And I split duties with Dan Schumacher. So anybody, who's usually an electronic media major, mass comm major, Dan Schumacher, because that's the school he teaches for, he calls those names. So I normally get like the School of Education, the School of Fine Arts and stuff like that, and science kind of thing. So, like for those reasons, I hadn't called your name.
That's fair. No, that's 100%. I totally get that.
I felt a little bit bad for you on that one because it was so many people. It was like everybody who graduated during COVID and like right after at the stadium, and then you and Dan like split it like basically down the middle, I think. But that was a lot of people.
That is one of the hardest gigs that I have because we get the database of the names, and in each graduating class, each college has about 500 per. So let's say there's a 10 a.m. Graduate ceremony. That's 500 people. The 2 o'clock, 500. The 6 p.m., 500, etc. So I'd usually do about 3 of the 6 ceremonies. You're talking about 1,500. We're given the database of names. Students attempt to write their names phonetically, which most don't know how to. Okay, some will give me a phonetic spelling for a name I don't need help with. Matt Smith, I got it, man. You don't need to tell me how to pronounce Matt Smith. But some of the students who have 1 vowel and 11 consonants in their names don't write it phonetically. So you got to try to figure it out. That takes hours to sift through all of that kind of stuff. And then when the lights are on, you have seconds to process that name. They don't want you staring at the card 20 seconds, give it a couple of shots before actually saying it. You got to just turn and burn kind of thing. And so if I hit it on a 70% rate, I'm happy with that. I know that I butcher some names up there. That is not an easy job, man. That's one of the hardest things I got to do.
What rank them for me? Give me the Mount Rushmore of Hart Brant Freeman jobs.
Hart Brant Freeman jobs.
So that's 1, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's number 1. In terms of the TV broadcast, I would say football is probably number 2. Football is so involved. There's so many moving parts. We have more people on the crew on that sport than any other. There's so many things you have to account for with football. Even though I feel like it's one of our stronger sports in terms of what we produce, baseball, I'd say, was number 3 because there could be so much downtime. You got to be creative in terms of filling the time and keeping the fans engaged and entertained kind of thing. And number 4 is being a podcast guest.
Is there anybody on any of the teams that you cover right now that you really had to work to like get their name right every time that you say it? Like either this year or like in the years past?
So in terms of players, not people graduating, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so the one that stands out the most to me was a player for UTA back when UTA was still in the Sun Belt Conference. And they had this player, and his name was really long, okay? I think it was like 19, 20-something letters long.
Yes.
And I was told, hey, man, you can just shorten it to KO. But me, wanting to take on a challenge, I was like, no, man, I'm gonna say his name every time he touches the ball.
Wrong answer. Wrong choice.
Okay, here's his name. You ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
Keodorichi Akabundu Ahiaku. I will never forget that name. That game was like 4 years ago now, kind of deal. But I recited that so over and over again in the lead up to that game. I will never forget it. Keodorichi Akabundu Ahiaku.
That's tough. That would have been KO for me.
Because didn't he have like he touched the ball a lot too, didn't he?
Oh, he was UTA's best player.
Yeah, okay. Because I think I remember that game. I think I remember watching that game on It was on ESPN Plus, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I probably was in North Dakota flipping. Yeah, so I would check out. Because the minute that you said 20 letters, I was like, oh, I know where this is going.
Yep.
I miss UTA. Those UTA Texas State games for basketball were very fun. I remember.
Well, they do play each other at San Marcos this year, so I think there has been an effort to keep the series going in non-conference play. At least there's that.
Speaking of non-conference play, this week, Texas State renews a rivalry reborn. Last seen in the 2011 to 2012 season, Sam Houston, Texas State. It'll be Texas State at Sam Houston at NRG, the home of the Houston Texans. So this is a rivalry game. I talked to GJ a little bit at the Sunbelt media availability this week about it, and he told me that he had to inform like the leadership council basically that this is in fact a rivalry game.
Yeah, that's what I talked to the leadership council about yesterday before our team meeting, and kind of got them caught up to speed, and that this is a rivalry game, and this is going to be a huge game for both teams, and I'm just really excited to NRG, and it'll be get to play in the Texan Stadium NFL environment. There'll be tons of people there. It'll be a really cool atmosphere for our guys, and so that I'm excited about that part of it.
Which feels weird because it predates UTSA's entire football program too.
Yeah, the very first UTSA game was 2012. That'll be a game I'll never forget either, for the wrong reasons, unfortunately. But the last game against Sam Houston was 2011, the year before that. And people forget this. That 2011 year, Texas State was technically an FCS independent. They were no longer in the Southland in terms of football that year. So the last conference game they had against each other was 2010. And for those that do remember the Southland days, this was a rivalry, and they reserved this game for the final game of the regular season. For the longest time, the year would end Texas State against Sam Houston. Two games stand out to me the most: 2005 and 2008. Both ended well for the Bobcats. Both ended in overtime, both resulting in conference championships. Starting with the 2005 game, to that point, Texas State had not really had a lot of success at the FCS, then known as 1AA level. They made the move from D2 to 1AA in like 1985. Never been a playoff team. And here comes this magical 2005 season, which people still remember fondly to this day. And that they were in the middle of an 11-win season. But going into that final game, they were tied with Nichols for the conference lead, and Nichols had won the game against the two earlier in the year, so they had the tiebreaker. And so the Bobcats really felt the need to win this game to claim at least a share of a conference title and be in the conversation for a playoff spot. Sam wasn't all that good that year. They were a sub-500 team, but it being a rivalry game, it was close. It was competitive. Sam tied the game really late in the fourth quarter. Game goes to overtime. And Texas State wins in a walk-off fashion. They got a touchdown to win the game, and they go on to celebrate winning a Coach Southland championship on the field. They go to the playoffs. The rest is history. They go 3 rounds deep. Without that season, maybe we're not talking about the Sun Belt Conference or realignment or anything like that to this day. Then you go 2008, and you're 3 years removed from that magical 2005 year, but now you're in the middle of another great year. Well, they go to the final game of the season, and again, they have to win the finale to win the conference championship to go to the playoffs. Sam Houston had a quarterback by the name of Rhett Bomar. And I'm going back here a little bit, but Rhett used to be a quarterback at Oklahoma. He transfers to Sam Houston. He's having a really, really big season, and in that game itself, Sam jumps out to like a 21-0 lead. The game felt over like midway through the second quarter. But here come the Bobcats storming back. And then it becomes a back-and-forth game by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, and the game ends up going to overtime. Well, at overtime, almost a repeat of the 2005 game, Texas State scores a touchdown on an option play. Bradley George was a quarterback, and anybody who followed Bradley George's career knew he wasn't a runner. They called it an option. He pitches it to the running back, Harrington Bush. He takes it in for a touchdown. Bobcats win in walk-off fashion, win the Southland, go to the playoffs again, another year momentum. So you look at, 05 to 08, 3 years, 08 to 11, 3 years, and it was in 11 that the invite to the FBS came. So, that invite doesn't come without, I think, those two conference championships, certainly starting with the 05 year, and it all goes back to that Texas State-Sam Houston rivalry.
Wow, crack open the history books. I love it. I mean,
I think the context.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, 100%. Like I feel like a much more informed person. Now, I think that it's interesting. You talk about the momentum that Texas State builds from pretty much this, 7 years between 05 and 11 to kind of get that FBS. At the same time, from 11 to now, Sam Houston State has had their own little bit of a run at the FCS level, competing for national championships, winning a national championship. Do you think that if the roles were reversed, Texas State would be in a similar spot as Sam Houston was at the FCS level over that time?
So you're saying, let's say Sam goes to the FBS when Texas State did, Bobcats staying in the FCS. I see where you're going there. No reason to believe that it wouldn't have happened. I mean, one, you think about where Texas State is located, right in San Marcos. One, a great college town. Two, between two bigger markets, Austin and San Antonio. the student body being 40,000, what it is now kind of deal. There's always been appeal with Texas State. So let's say the invite didn't come in 2012, it would have come eventually.
Okay.
So I think that Texas State's always been an attractive, program. Now, certainly football being really good this year helps a lot. Football being good back in the late 2000s helped spur them into, being attractive FBS option. And even that 1 year in the WAC, when Carl Benson was the commissioner and then he left for the Sun Belt, he knew what Texas State could be. And that's why the invite from the WAC of the Sun Belt came from Carl Benson as well. So it really always felt like a matter of when and not if with Texas State. So to answer your question, Andrew, I think yes.
So do you feel that Sam Houston looks at Texas State? Because I know the fans, and you say it's a rivalry, I get that, but when one is playing at the FBS level and one's playing at the FCS level, it's kind of hard to kind of conceptualize that, especially when you don't play them in a lot of other sports. I don't remember a Sam Houston State game when I was on campus. Do you, Jacob, where it was like, let's get up for this game?
No.
So I look at it and I think to myself, like, okay, Sam Houston State has to be on like outside the club, Hayden, being like, hey, this could have been us. This should have been us. Do you try to put yourself in that mindset? What do you think? Because you were on the field, you're in the trenches with it. Do you think that they look at Texas State and they go like, that's what we could have been if 5 and 8 and 11 all go our way?
It's possible, that 05 year, 08 year, if they win those games, they're not winning conference championships or going to the playoffs, but they would have stopped Texas State's momentum for sure. And who knows, maybe they would have gotten an invite at the time that we did, instead. In terms of the rivalry, you're right. It's lost its momentum. They haven't played each other in football in 13 years. They have played each other in other sports, but because the football rivalry hasn't been there, it's lost its luster a little bit. So I think for those that have been around for a while at both schools, they're happy to see this thing, come back somewhat. And I'm sure Sam Houston fans are really itching for this as well. People forget, in addition to with both teams from the Southland Conference, they didn't like each other, but they also had other rivals. Texas State very much had a rivalry with UTSA, just didn't exist in football. Mm-hmm. Sam Houston had a rivalry in football and other sports with SFA, major rivalry with that. So both schools kind of kept those independent rivalries going after they left each other, kind of deal. So they kind of kept that going. But in the back of your mind, you're kind of hoping this would happen again. And so it's great to see this game, come to fruition, at a big stadium, at NRG in Houston. What I'm curious about is that will we see this rivalry continue beyond this year? We know it's going to with UTSA. Will it for Texas State against Sam?
Mm-hmm. I would love to see that, honestly.
This is a result of Liberty bowing out too against that game that we had scheduled with them too, right? So then I think they announced that, and I think we had the game contract too for Sam's thing. I don't think it goes to another year. I mean, I guess that could be in the works potentially, especially because Kelly graduated from Sam Houston. He got his undergrad over there, and I think that's where he met his wife. I could be wrong. But another narrative added into the little collection,
How would you feel about that, Brant, if we had 2 non-conference rivalry games before we get into probably the hardest G5 conference? Does that, I know from a fan's point of view, I like that, but with the expanded playoffs, a G5 school can't lose 2 games. You have to go one loss. Your one loss has to be to a Power 5. So already right there, there's 3 of our non-conference games, 2 rivalry games, and then a potential P4 team.
And they both wear orange, and also one of them is a Texas State University system school.
Right, and then there's that too. You bring up a great question, Andrew, because you think about the formula for non-conference schedule: 4 games. When you have 8 Sun Belt Conference games to go along with that, so you always want a P4, right? One, it could be either a money game or a home game, like the Bobcats had against Arizona State. You want that UTSA game in there because that is a baked-in rivalry, and you want an FCS opponent as well because you feel like that it's a good opportunity to have a win already on your schedule as you try to get that magic number of 6, and obviously more than that for a potential playoff bid. And so it leaves you with 1 game to go. Would you rather keep going this rivalry with Sam Houston, or do you want to schedule up a little bit? Maybe I don't know if a second P4 is a good idea, but maybe
A Pac-12
only
school.
right.
4.5.
But maybe instead you try to shoot for like an upper level, group of five, like a Boise State or UNLV, Memphis or something like that. Does that sound a little bit more appealing than Sam Houston? Perhaps. You think about how Sam Houston wants to schedule as well. They have to abide by the same kind of formula kind of thing. Is this an every year game? I don't know, but could it be like every other year? Do you schedule a 6-game contract and it stretches out over 12 years? That's something that I could see.
Yeah. The other part is too, and I would be a little leery if I was any group of 5 school as long as GJ Kenny's at the helm. I don't necessarily want to play Texas State with the take back Texas mantra, because now all of a sudden, if we're going for the same recruits and I lose wherever it be, whether it be Bobcat Stadium, somewhere else, NRG, and I have a guy who's maybe sitting on the fence, I don't know how much I feel about that. Whereas Boise State, UNLV, they're probably going after different guys. So that contract may be a little bit more appealing than signing a contract with a guy whose whole mantra is, I want to take all the recruits from Texas. I just want to have a Texas team.
Or like just playing in Houston in general is such a big stage for recruiting. Just playing in that part of the state itself. I think that's like kind of a bigger deal for GJ than anything, because he talked about like this being like a potentially like bowl game atmosphere over there. He knows Bobcat fans travel well, and I think I did lie on the internet at one point and say that the Houston's like Texas State's like Houston alumni chapter is like the biggest. I could be wrong. I could not be wrong, but I did say that I think at one point on the internet. Yeah, like what you were talking about. It's going to be a huge atmosphere in Houston. Houston Alumni Association, I think, is huge for Texas State in general.
Well, you along with everybody else, Jacob, just using the internet for just stretching the truth a little bit.
Misinformation.
Right. all joking aside, you bring up another good point, Andrew, that there is a perspective of what do you have to gain, right? Because if you lose this game, it doesn't look good in terms of recruiting. You're not getting money out of this game. It's not a P4 game where you get a check cut for it, kind of deal. But at the same time, this comes from a guy who grew up in the NFL before college football, and now I like both. But what's missing, what makes college football better than the NFL is the pageantry, or these rivalry games kind of thing, having a healthy dislike for another school, for another fan base kind of thing. A game against a Memphis or Boise State would be awesome. It would be great, but I feel nothing for them. Right? I don't dislike Boise State. I don't dislike Memphis kind of thing. If they have great seasons, great, good for them kind of thing. If they don't, I'm not going to revel in their sorrow. But for Sam Houston, a Texas State fan, right? If either school has a bad season, you're going to see the social media reaction about like trolling them or jumping on them or whatever. Hopefully it's nice and healthy kind of thing, and not ugly or anything like that. But that's what makes college football. So you have to keep that in mind too.
True.
I will say that Brant Freeman, you can write it in like stone. He does not revel in the misery of others. This season, as Texas State's fighting for that number 12 spot, I do. I am rooting against Boise State. I'm rooting against UNLV. I'm rooting against everybody else in the group of 5, because I do not want them to have good years. I want us to have a good year.
No, I think I'm in the same boat. It's good for business, right? I mean, you guys have seen the difference like that last season was in comparison to just like winning all the time, or it felt like winning all the time. We did not win all the time, obviously, but much different than when me and Andrew were covering the team from 2016 to 2020, when we would see maybe 2 or 3 wins on a good year, So yeah,
we've already had more wins in the past 3 games and then last season than I saw my entire time at Texas State. Like that's that.
I think just last year alone, probably too. No,
7.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a 4-win season in there.
A 4-win?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Brant, talk about tell us about like the turning the page here. How much energy you feel now being on like the winning side, the light side of this entire thing.
Yeah. So, you just described it, like there were some really tough times for the program, and it makes a job like mine really difficult kind of thing. Even though, and so with the radio broadcast, which I used to be a part of for a long time, you can be a little bit of a homer. I wouldn't slant too much that way. I was never saying we or us or anything like that, but I'd give more energy for a Texas State touchdown. I certainly, you could tell listening to the games, I wanted the Bobcats to win. We're on television. I've got to play it far more down the middle kind of thing. And people, I think, have picked up on that. That said, there's a part of me, during the TV broadcast, while I am playing the neutral role, of course, I want the Bobcats to win. It makes, my job more enjoyable, makes it easier kind of thing. And for so many years that wasn't the case, and so it makes calling a game difficult. It makes doing podcasts and interviews with those with the program difficult. To find things to talk about and try to stay positive. And now that they're enjoying a lot of success, it's just night and day. The difference of being associated with that than being associated with the team that's struggling, kind of deal. So. It's been a lot of fun to have been a part of this. I know national TV is taking the last two broadcasts. We're looking forward to the next one that we get, kind of deal. But that's a byproduct of winning as well. So not only is there far more fan engagement here, there's a lot more engagement on a national scale. I mean, how cool is it, guys, to be, seeing Texas State into these, in these potential playoff predictions, and these power polls kind of deal, a group of five and best programs in Texas right now kind of thing. This is fun to be a part of.
Put it in my veins, man. That's what I needed. That's what was missing. I will say I am a little upset because we are chasing like TV views now, which is cool, but presents a challenge for like scheduling because it's like what we have a Tuesday game, 2 Thursday games, and a Friday this year. So now it's like
Yep.
I mean, some of those I think are away. 2 of them are at home, but
Yep.
I'll be there for both of the.
I want $1 in that NIL jar.
What?
I want $1 in that NIL
What?
jar.
I didn't say
heard
it.
one slip out there.
I don't think so. What did I say?
Brant, be the judge here. Did you hear one?
You got 2 letters in there, Jacob. You're missing the last 2. You got 2 letters in.
Oh,
Got him.
it's tough. That'll be a tough watch back for me. Play that one in slow-mo. Oh. But another narrative, I guess, is Casey.
We're gonna get a 5-star with this guy's potty mouth, Brant. We're gonna get a 5-star quarterback on the back of Jacob Rodriguez.
Straight up. You're welcome, Texas State, because I can't rein it in sometimes. I just get so passionate. By the way, Brant Freeman, consummate professional, unlike myself and Andrew, by the way. If you watch any of the broadcasts, he does play straight down the middle.
Well, also, too, like, that proverbial filter, that switch has been ingrained in me for so long now. So, like, anytime the mics are on, the camera's on, the Zoom is on, like that part of my vocabulary, which does exist, I'll admit that, does not exist whenever that light is on.
I chimed in on a Twitter Spaces and I was very surprised that I did not let one fly. And I was like, "Ooh, look at this."
You were on
Sometimes
Dave
it's there,
Campbell's.
sometimes it's not.
Last year he was on Dave Campbell's live show, and I was like
You were very
on the
concerned.
edge of my seat. I was on the edge of my seat, excited.
And let me tell you, so was I. Because that's just how I talk. I'm so sorry. You should hear my mom and how she speaks. I wanted to get into another narrative because Casey Keeler's in his 10th season at Sam Houston. GJ Kinney's at his 2nd year with Texas State, basically with a team ever in his 2nd year. I wonder what kind of the differences are play out in that. But Casey Keeler, I think at one time was on a short list, those short lists that come out for potential coaching candidates to take over the helm for the Bobcats. So that's kind of something there, something not there. I don't know. Something to watch maybe.
Yeah, you're right. His name was, on that short list that like you guys had heard, I'd heard as well, kind of thing. Things have worked out, I think, pretty well for both parties. And while Sam had a really difficult first year, in the FBS last year, they're off to a 3-1 start this year. He's a really good coach. He was Joe Flacco's head coach at Delaware, by the way, before he was at Sam Houston. Did a lot of good things for the Blue Hens, and Sammy won a national championship. So things have gone well for him there, and certainly things have gone extremely well for GJ Kinney here. And so I think, both parties have to be happy where they're at right now, but he is a really good coach, Casey Keeler. There's a reason why his name has been associated with several other jobs.
Two
Yeah,
two guys whose names both go by initials. So I always like that.
Oh,
TJ,
yeah, there's that too.
PJ. Remember we had like all those last year. PJ. Yeah.
I always like it when a program wins at the FCS level and then keeps the head coach as they go into FBS, because I think that there's been other programs who have shed their coach, being like, oh, we need to go get somebody a bigger name. Or I'm glad that Sam Houston stuck with their guns and stuck with their coach.
I guess
So
it
there's that.
paid off, right? Brant was saying they're 3-1. I think who'd they beat last week? New Mexico.
New Mexico State. They've also beaten Hawaii and Rice.
Oof.
Oh, brother.
So if it's not a rivalry, it may well become one.
Yeah, look at that. So what has impressed you the most from this Texas State team through these first 3 games? Because there's a couple things that stand out to me, but I want to hear from you. What has impressed you the most?
Well, first and foremost, Jordan McLeod is the real deal. I've been super impressed with him. But I think the thing that's most impressive is how they've been able to adapt defensively. So you think about the game plan against UTSA, make Owen McCown uncomfortable, and he was, to the point where they made a change of quarterback in the second half. So I thought the pass rush was unbelievably good against UTSA. And then you had Arizona State, even though, albeit in a losing effort, Cam Scatterbu was coming off this monster game against Mississippi State, an SEC opponent. And typically their defenses are very physical, can really stop the run. He went off for 262. The game plan was make Sam Levitt beat you. You tip your cap. He did. They won the game. But Cam Scatterbu was not a factor in that game. I think he had 49 yards rushing, less than 4 yards per carry, in that game. Ben Bell's been unbelievable as a pass rusher so far this year. The defensive line as a whole has been great so far. These new additions, at linebacker, Manny Nunnery and Max Harris. The back end, the secondary has been really good so far this season as well. I think that everybody knew the offense was going to be special, with all those returners at receiver. They're bringing the reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year. What I wondered, though, okay, new players at linebacker, new defensive coordinator, losing, Brian Holloway, losing Jordan Rebels, losing Sean Holden. How will this defense hold up this season? And man, they have answered the bell so far this year. No pun intended with Ben Bell.
Well, it's funny too, because last year with GJ, the conversation was, they're going to average like 50 points per game again. No, it's not going to happen. I didn't think they were going to average 35, and I think they came pretty close. Didn't they finish at 34, Jacob, last year, or in that ballpark?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I was super impressed by the offense. The fact that they have a legit Sunbelt defense, like this is a Sunbelt defense that can go toe to toe with anybody. That is the most impressive thing to me, because I never thought that Texas State was going to put that type of commitment to the defense. I thought this was going to be a lot of like first team to 75 wins type of games, and I don't think it's going to be that way. There was a lot of low scoring games.
You'll remember, I guess, Andrew, but in the offseason, there was some question marks around linebacker core, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, linebackers and I guess like the secondary. I guess the defensive line as a whole, too.
Well,
these guys
if you remember, and
maybe
Brant,
we were just concerned about the defense as a whole.
I wouldn't blame Brant for not seeing this, but the coaching staff did, where I said the secondary has always been an issue at Texas State. Truly. They always seem to get an injury bug or a lack of size or lack of depth. And they were like, what, Zimmelman? We're going to fix that.
We lost Torrey mid-season last year, but he still finished with all these like preseason or postseason honors too. So shout out Torrey, but we were missing him.
And Torrey Spears is supposed to be back this weekend as well.
All right.
That was crazy, because before the UTSA game, they had the ribbon cutting at UFCU Stadium, or was that the game before? I think it was UTSA, right? I might be right.
No, it was the first game of the year.
First game of the year.
Lamar.
Oh, yes. So he didn't play against Lamar, but they have the ribbon cutting for UFCU Stadium. And that's where we figured out that he wasn't playing, because they told us there at the ribbon cutting as he held the gold pair of scissors in his hands. Oh, yeah, by the way, Torrey's not playing. So, bummer.
Which, like, yeah, you probably knew that because you're on the inside. The rest of us are like, oh, thanks for the injury report. Love that for us.
Tweet that. Yep. Later this year, Sam Houston also plays Western Kentucky and TJ Finley. So,
Is TJ done, or is he playing still?
I don't. Well, he will be on the team. So
all right, there you go.
There you go.
Mobile quarterback, yes or no, Brant? TJ Finley.
He was mobile when he had to be.
There's a correct answer here.
If he just fell forward, sometimes he would be mobile. Like That's 6 feet right there. Boom.
You know, there was the second last home game last year when the Bobcats clinched bowl eligibility. You know, I get it. You know, Finley was a big target at 6'7". You know, and he was like a defensive end playing quarterback, and so like when the pocket collapsed, you got worried. You know, how is he going to handle it? But in that game against Georgia Southern, he ran for a couple of touchdowns in that game. So I mean, like, I think that TJ was mobile when he had to be. Is he a Jordan McLeod? You know, is he a Lindsey Scott, who the staff coached before coming to Texas State? No, he's not that. But you know, when the moment called for it, I really do believe he was mobile when he had to be.
I'm going to go out and put this in the universe. I think Brant Freeman beats TJ Finley in a 40-yard dash.
God, no chance. By the way,
that guy moved like Saddam Hussein's statue being torn down. He moved like a statue.
I'm telling you, if he just fell forward a few times, it would be a lot prettier stat line for him because he was so big. He did take on some defenders head on too at some points. I guess to his demise though, because at Troy he had the bad fumble on the goal line when we hosted Troy last year, and that was kind of the beginning of the end for that game. And then he threw an interception in the red zone too. I think he was like kind of like running out of the pocket, then saw a guy open, then that's where that happened. So bummer.
But the funny thing is that he goes down in the history of like the great Texas State quarterbacks because he won us our first bowl game. So he will forever be in that conversation with like, hey, do you remember when like TJ Finley did XYZ? It's like, yeah, that was a magical season. I'm hoping that we have a bunch more of those and that it like, you know, kind of, I like the guy, but if he goes down as like the top 5 Texas State quarterback of my lifetime,
it will be interesting with like, because now there's a bunch of like everybody's been talking about, oh, Pac-12. Are we going to the ACC? Like every week, there's like some other potential offer on the table, or it feels like there is at least. But like that, I guess, makes it interesting for like from a coaching perspective too, because everybody's talking about, oh, we got to keep GJ for this year. We got to keep GJ for next year, potentially for 10 years down the line. Like, how do we keep coaches? How do we keep staffs and like units together, basically? I guess like moving like that would make sense. But obviously, we have no control of that. We just get the press release, and we're like, "Oh, I guess we're in somewhere else."
No. Brant Freeman, would a move to the Pac-12 make sense for Texas State?
Well, first off, you know, to be completely transparent with you guys, and I'm being honest when I say this, I have heard absolutely nothing when it comes to realignment. And I'm honest when I say that.
So we can expect the news tomorrow. Got it. Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. You know, Andrew, I know that's kind of a non-answer what you're looking for there, but either way, they're on an island, either on the East in the Pac-12, currently in the West here in the Sun Belt Conference. You know, the Pac-12 does have Oregon State and Washington State, you know, and Boise State. Those are the 3 most attractive teams. Is the rest of the field that much better than the Sun Belt? And think about it too from a non-football perspective, right? The other sports, you know, like this baseball conference, the Sun Belt, is arguably, you know, I mean, I think that might be top 3, you know, in the country.
Top 3 in the country, right? Yes.
Right. So you would go down a peg in the Pac-12. As good as Oregon State is at baseball, as good as they are, the rest of that conference, not as much, kind of thing. And also for those other sports, we're talking, you know, the volleyballs, the basketballs, softballs. You're crossing 2 time zones to go play a conference game. In the Sun Belt, you do have to cross one, you know, from the central to the east. But you're crossing the central to the mountain to the west, you know, to Pacific Coast time kind of deal. So there are advantages. Certainly the name carries a lot of weight with it. Those two schools, as I mentioned, you know, the holdovers, Washington State, Oregon State, you know, have a lot of prestige behind them kind of thing. But I truly am happy where the Bobcats are right now. But I will say any talk of any realignment gets everybody really excited. I understand why we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
If it was the Pac-12 of even like 3 years ago, and there's a chance of like Brant Freeman gets to go to Southern California to call games, I'm all in. But going to Spokane, this is what we're excited about. I think that the Pac-12 realignment rumors for any team in the state of Texas is asinine. It does not make any sense. The money's not there. The fan engagement isn't there. It makes zero sense to me, Brett. And I do not understand why people are excited for it. Like, famously, we were accused of being too forward thinking when it comes to like, oh, maybe Texas State could go to the Big 12. When I don't know a single person who ever thought Texas State was a Big 12 school. But now the idea that going to the Pac-12 is like some sort of giant leap, to me doesn't make sense. That is living in a fantasy and living in the past, because it doesn't. The Pac-12 of Reggie Bush and that doesn't exist anymore.
Zimmel knows this saying very well, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And this is also a take I shared on Twitter on that Spaces 2 nights ago. But I think Jeff Traylor kind of nerfed the whole Pac-12 thing for UTSA because he spoke about it pretty openly at his coach's show, I think a week ago.
Jeff, there are a bunch of reports about UTSA and conference realignment. You had a comment last week on your radio show. Is there anything you could comment on, anything that's happened since?
That's the last comment you will ever hear Jeff Traylor say about the Pac-12. I will have tape on my mouth from now on. I said way too much at the radio show, and I'm not doing that to Dr. Campos or President Amy anymore. So all questions concerning Pac-12, get in touch with Dr. Lisa Campos. Jeff Traylor is out of that professional opinion business.
But at his media availability this week, he was like, I will never talk about the Pac-12 deal again. I think his athletic director, Lisa Campos, is very upset at me, and I will never speak on any conference thing ever again. I
was surprised he spoke about it when he did, kind of thing. I'll add this about realignment. If it were to happen, another Texas school would have to be tied to it, because I think, in terms of the Sun Belt, it was tough to see UTA go. No, I know UTA didn't play football, but you lost that basketball rivalry, you lost the volleyball rivalry, all the rivalries, all the sports kind of thing, and it's kind of tough being on an island in Texas. It affects travel. There's no longer a travel partner when it comes to those sports here. In terms of building a rivalry with another school, there's none that really exists geographically, kind of thing. So if a move to the Pac-12, the AAC, the Mountain West Conference, wherever, you would want to see another Texas school, one close in proximity, tied to it.
Now you say that UTSA is obviously the one. I like UNT personally. I would love a UNT Texas State shift to wherever we go and just leave UTSA in the dark. But that's me.
Any chance you get to stick it to UTSA, you're going to take it, Andrew. I get it.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying. And also the fact that they never got an offer sheet, by the way, it should be out there. They didn't get an offer sheet. They just added themselves into it because, they needed 4 teams. I like UTSA. I think Jeff Traylor's a good guy. I think that for a fan base that's 10 years old, they have a lot of very large aspirations for their football program. They are what they accused us of, Brant. They are people who think, seriously, do you remember Texas State fans think they should be in the Big 12? No, we don't. We just think that we should be better than 2-10. That's it. And also, finally, on this last point, if we're going anywhere, we're going to the ACC so that we can go play Miami. Because Brant Freeman on South Beach, I'm here for that. I am here. Okay. I'm rooting for Brant to go to Miami.
Heyo, yeah. Zimmel famously does not like the city of Pensacola at all. He's lambasted for it. I have to think, though, that Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill was in San Marcos for the Arizona State game and had to have been going like, hey, we're still good here, right? This is the Sunbelt. This is what we play for. Good luck on your games, guys.
I want Keith Gill to go to UTSA and look at the Alamo Dome and be like, nah, we're good.
So what are you expecting for Saturday, Brant? Because I guess there's been a lot of talk about how good Texas State is in the passing game. Of course, Ishmael Mahdi, and now Lincoln Perry forming into a 2-headed monster. We've seen a lot of crazy offensive production from the both of them. In the air, of course, it's Joey Hobert's show every night, basically, on Saturdays. It's been really fun to watch. Is there anything that we should be paying close attention to? Any matchups you see on the Sam Houston side?
Well, Sam has been playing pretty good defensively. They've forced 7 turnovers through 4 games. I think they've held in their 3 wins their opponents to 14 points or less, kind of deal. So they've done a really good job on defense. That said, I think one of the more dangerous things is a Bobcat team like this coming off a bye. So they're well rested. if you remember, they had 3 games condensed in a 12-day stretch.
Mhm.
You know, that was a lot of football, and they were this close to winning all 3. Now you give them, you know, what is it? It's going to be 13 days of rest or whatever that number is, kind of thing. So I expect them to come out firing, you know, maybe playing a little bit with a chip on their shoulder, you know, after playing a game after losing one they felt they should have won, kind of thing. So that coupled with the rest that they got, I expect them to take some shots downfield and, you know, look to put up a lot of points against against a good defense, you know, against Sam Houston. But I expect them to play very aggressively on both sides of the football on Saturday.
I'm looking for more like defensive, like I want to see like kind of the Brian Holloway type interceptions that we saw last year. There's been a lot of like forced fumbles and stuff too. So that's been different to watch. A lot of like great D line play too. But I guess I want more turnovers or forced turnovers and then us doing something with the turnovers, which is still astounding to me because I think I mentioned to Zimmel that I get like PTSD anytime I hear like it's 3rd down at UFCU Stadium. Usually we would not get those, and now we do. It's crazy, and we go for it on 4th too. So very fun to watch. In terms of like the weirdest thing you've seen at the stadium, how odd was like the last play of the Arizona State game when they put 1 second back on the clock?
That was so bizarre because that game was like it had been over for in real time 5-10 minutes,
At least 10.
you know. Yeah. People had cleared the field. The fight song had played. I don't think there may have been time for even a jersey swap between players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think I noticed one of Arizona State's players came to the Bobcats sideline to hug one of the coaches for Texas State, kind of thing. And then all this, but the refs never left the field. I've seen a lot of strange things, but that's been one of the more bizarre that I've ever seen. You know, to put 1 second back on the clock. And I remember thinking when the play happened live, the kneel down, never once did I thought like, hey, wait a minute, there should be some more time on the clock over there, kind of thing. So that was strange. And ESPN had punted on the game because of course they did.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the fallout had Texas State pulled off the lateral miracle, the Stanford versus Cal, the band on the field kind of play and won that game, and it would never exist on TV? That was a possibility. They were going to cut from Scott Van Pelt, who was already on, to cut, you know, to do a live cut into Texas State, you know, for that play. They were already into their programming. And so, like, that would have been a play that would not have existed on TV. Think about that, too.
Yeah.
A Heidi game for Texas State.
Yeah.
I already switched lenses on my camera, too. So I shot the last play with this little rinky-dink 50mm camera that I use for, like, photography. And so I'm, like, feels like 150 feet away from this play watching it. And now it's just insane to watch back. Like, what? How did we get here? And I know Arizona State's head coach was pissed, livid at that. So, yeah, not fun.
Well, I can tell you I was livid for 4 quarters, Brant, because Matt Berry, I love Matt Berry. I forgot he went to Arizona State. I reminded myself very quickly that he went to Arizona State within the first 2 series of that game. It's like, feels like there's a lot of a thumb on the scale here. What's going on? Every call should go to the Sun Devils. It's a strange call there. So I was livid for 4 quarters, folks. Not just one play.
Well, I do know, though, you know, I know you kind of, you say that a little bit tongue in cheek, right? Because Matt Berry being an Arizona State grad, but, you know, again, for Bobcat fans to get the Thursday Night Football treatment, I'm sure was a blast.
Yeah, it was okay.
You had to look back into your files for that one.
I had to. I was excited for it. I was excited for it. I'm not going to lie. I would have been more excited if I woke up like 4 hours after the game and I went to work and the Bobcats had won. But you know what? It was fine.
I had us going 4-0 to start the season. So now my season prediction is all wrong. I had us going 12-0. I had bought in big on the Bobcat bonds this year. But you know, I think I had gone out to 3 practices and then their last scrimmage for the team. And I was like, okay, well, this is very clearly not a perfect team. That was before the Lamar game and then before UTSA. And I still felt very strongly, even after the Arizona State win. I don't think there's anything like, there's no such thing as like a bad or a good loss, you know, but I'm sure this team learned a lot about this. And then, you know, you mentioned just how much time that they get back to get healthy, get prepared for Sam Houston. Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting some fireworks at NRG. I don't know if they do that on the pyrotechnic scale, but Some literal
No,
fireworks.
they don't.
Some
The
non-literal
NFL
fireworks.
I can tell you from covering the Vikings, they made it illegal a couple years ago to put pyrotechnics in stadiums
Really?
because the Vikings used to have a fire breathing like Norse god thing. And they were like, nope, cut that.
No false idols at US Bank.
No, couldn't do it. So yeah. All right. Thanks, Brant.
Yeah.
Brant, anything else you think people should know before they go to the game on Saturday or watch the game?
I think it's important for them to turn out. Look, you think back to 2014 when the team was bowl eligible. A lot of people forget that. This past year, they weren't eligible for the first time. They were eligible for the third time. They just went to a bowl for the first time. And one of the issues in 2014 was the bowl committees didn't think that fans were turning out enough, for home games or road games for that matter. This is the easiest road game of the year that the fans can turn out for, right? This Houston game. And look, if the team is eligible this year, which they're going to be eligible, right? And then some, and they're not going to be denied a bowl bid. I'm not saying that either. But like, you really want to make an impression, on the people, on the decision makers, right? So turn out for this game. It's an easy drive up by 10. It's an NFL stadium. The accommodations are going to be great. This is a closer drive for Sam Houston fans out of Huntsville. Outdraw, be louder. I'm not calling this Sam Houston's home stadium. It's not. But if you, again, I mentioned how I like both the college and NFL. There was an NFL game this past week in LA, and it was drowned out by 49er fans. It should be that this weekend. It really should be. Texas State fans over Bearcat fans.
It's not a home game. It's like an in-law game. It's not your home. It's your in-law's house. That's what it feels like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that comparison.
The battle of the eat 'em up cats. I very dislike that hashtag that they use, but I understand why they use it because of course, like why wouldn't you? Surround yourself with strong brands. Brant Freeman, thank you so much for doing this show. We appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for having me on. This was a pleasure.
Go party in the end zone, Brant.
Man, that's taking it back and probably not to a place most people want to remember.
Zimmel, it's always nice to reconnect with friends, right? You and
I
Brant
would disagree.
There are certain people in your life, I guess, that you're like, whatever. Who cares about these
most
guys?
of our friend group,
Our entire fantasy football league group chat. Yeah,
I would say
every league member and team owner.
I would say that if those guys got in a plane crash and landed on a deserted island,
oh my God.
I would be very much little. I would first off delete the league. And move on.
But then you have
life.
no proof that you won a championship one year.
I would move on with my life.
Air quotation marks. He did not.
I would move on with my life very quickly.
I hate
Lord
you.
of the Flies.
Here's
Jacob
my,
Rodriguez.
if and when I actually ever do get married, my dream is that we go tuna fishing with that group of people, mostly that group of people. I don't know if everybody makes the bachelorette or bachelor trip, right? But we go deep sea fishing off of the Mexico coast. We have a great time out there. Come home with some trophy fish. On the way back, we get marooned on an island, and I just have to survive with my friends. How quickly?
You're an insane person.
How quickly
you read
do you
Robinson Crusoe one time, and you're like, "This is my life."
But those guys, I think, would all vote you off the island first.
Oh, 100%. I would be Piggy in Lord
I
of
would
the
have
Flies
to
for sure.
fend for your life.
Yeah, again, if
Stay away
that
from
group-
Zimmel. We have a podcast to do.
If that group fell off the face of the earth, I don't think I would shed many tears.
How'd you
The
do?
deep fake. The deep fakes.
Fantasy sports.
The deep fakes are tough.
Oh God, yeah. I don't even want to talk about that because if you're in a losing streak in our league, things get diabolical very quickly.
Yes.
Speaking of fantasy sports, how did you do this week in Pick'em? I know you did well, so I'll save you the time. You did very well. You climbed back up into the top, 5 spots, basically.
Yeah.
So you're top 4. I am 4 as well. So we're tied for 4th in the Squarin' Around Pick'em.
Well, no, hold on. I'm 7th because there's 3 teams tied for 4th. I'm 19-21. You're 20-20. Yeah. Zachary's awesome picks are.
Is that Zach Webb?
16.
No way. No,
I
it's
think
not
so.
him. It's not Zach Webb.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's not him. I think it's
Wizard
1723 is his. I went 20-20. Yeah. So
yeah.
I got to write the ship this week.
last week I gave you some good picks. So
Yeah, I know, and I didn't go back and pick them.
this week, you want to go through them?
I picked early last week too. Was maybe my biggest kerfuffle.
Kansas State over Oklahoma State. I don't trust the Mike Gundy Fighting Cowboys.
I'm gonna ride with the Cowboys. My boy McLean
Really?
writes for them. Yeah, 24/7 Sports. McLean Baxley.
I think Kansas State gets the win. BYU over Baylor. They lost in a heartbreaker. Notre Dame. I take them over Louisville. A&M over Arkansas.
Ooh, that's a fun rivalry game. Speaking of rivalry games,
yeah. I have App State over Liberty. I think Liberty's frauds. I really hope they lose this game for Sunbelt supremacy. Fresno State. I have UNLV over Fresno State. Auburn taking down Oklahoma. I don't trust the quarterback situation for the Sooners. The Duke Blue Devils, the Dukies over the Tar Heels. And then I have Georgia over Alabama on the road. That's going to be a really good game. I wouldn't be shocked if Bama gets the win. That's a really tough one. If there's any flip them or coin flips, it's that one. And Washington State over Boise State, mostly because I need Boise State to lose, so Texas State has a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at some of these picks. I made a few of them. The one I did not make immediately was Liberty App State. Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I might have to fade you there. Try to go with the Liberty Eagles.
Yeah, I mean,
If you're playing and pick them, this has been really fun. I
hate Liberty, so I'm going with App State. And again, for Sunbelt supremacy, I need them to get the win. So do your job, Mountaineers.
Do your job.
It's a good stadium. Of all the stadiums, App State might have one of the better ones. So
there was a lot of complaining online after the UTSA win for us, but loss for the Roadrunners, the media circle in San Antonio going, what is this media setup? Blah, blah, blah. We're not going to have to deal with that at all because we're in beautiful NRG this week. Not that I think it was a bad setup at all, though.
GJ Kenny gets a table skirt for his post-game press conference.
Just shoot up. Put the camera right here, man. What are you doing? I don't know. Some of these TV folk, you know.
Well, you know what? The funny thing is that I guess because we've been so harsh on Texas State in the past, I feel like it's kind of lame that UTSA writers are so mouthpiece-ish for
sometimes a little
Roadrunners. I just don't get it. I'm still like, again, UNT's writers pointed this out, and I think it's really smart. UTSA didn't get an invite to the Pac-12. Like, they just were grouped in with the other 3 teams from the AAC who were going to go. Like, they didn't get an invite. So they were just like, we're not going. You weren't invited. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, cool. Also, and I said this to Brant, I'm going to reiterate it here. I've been saying it for weeks. The Pac-12 makes 0 sense for any Texas school. There's a reason, like, if the University of Texas in Oklahoma 10 years, 12 years ago, were like, we don't want the Pac-12. What makes you think Texas State wants the Pac-12 now? Like, it doesn't make sense.
This whole thing has been confusing for me as somebody who's geographically challenged. You know this. I don't know where any of these schools are regularly. I barely
know where Vegas is.
Yeah, I do know where Vegas is.
Okay, well, there's UNLV.
Actually, I had no idea that Lake Tahoe was over there. So I learned that new because our buddy, John Lee, who Andrew tried to take advantage of in a fantasy football trade this week, was over there. So, yeah, I was catching up with him.
This is good. This is good. We can air this out. I did that in front of everybody because
I know, and we threw the flag on the play.
And because
went to a review.
I could have done that behind closed doors. I could have been like, hey, here's 2 picks. Here's your player for pick or whatever.
I also did think that was a joke. And then John agreed. And I was like, okay, someone's got to step in here.
Snow texted me immediately and was like, if money is being turned over for players, we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a big problem if you're paying for players.
I finally picked up my first win. Didn't get a congratulations from you. I noticed that, and I took that personally.
You still have a team. Your team's still awful.
Surviving, clawed for that first win of the season.
Yeah,
playing my brother this week.
Did you see? I did this accidentally. Ryan and John do not play this year. So we have a potential for both those guys to go over. So we might have.
I need to call John Lee every Sunday at 10 in the morning and set his lineup for him.
Yeah, you didn't do it this week.
No, I did not.
Yeah. And he gets one more of those before we
Slept
kick him out of the
in,
league.
Went to mass.
We're kicking him out of the league if he doesn't set his lineup.
If I don't call him every Sunday.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. The keepers were strike 1, not setting the lineups is strike 2. Like, he cannot keep getting away with this.
Pretty much just paying for friends at this point.
He can't keep getting away with this, Jacob. You need to do something. Step in.
I need to step in as the treasurer of this league.
Yeah.
Yeah. An officer of this league. Take some responsibility, Jacob. Houston Alumni Association, don't let me down. Don't let those words just be words on the internet. Show up for this game at Sam Houston.
Did we find out where the biggest alumni base is for Texas State?
You know, I should just email somebody that I know personally on the alumni board.
I'm wondering if we do this. Texas State alum, and we just go to the Facebook pages. So would you like to get, let's do this. Alumni.
I'm going to guess Houston or San Antonio, biggest.
So according to Facebook, there's only 4 pages.
Okay. Oh, really? Is it
is
it Houston, Dallas, San Antonio?
There's the Texas State Alumni in New Braunfels, which has 649. There is the Texas State Alumni Association of Cadwell County, which has 191. And then there's just Texas State Alumni, which has 23,000. So I don't know. I feel like that's going to be tough.
Yeah, you didn't see the San Antonio one? They got 2.4 thousand followers.
2,400?
Yeah, 2.4.
Yeah, 2.4. 2,400. I think it's San Antonio that has the biggest one.
The Dallas network, only about less than 500. And again, these are just all people who
these are
follow
going off
that
Facebook
page.
numbers.
Yeah, purely based off Facebook
Which
numbers.
I think is like, I think that's not a bad way to look at it.
Corpus Christi chapter, less than 200. I forget that the number that they put out there, but it's probably, I think it's like 200,000 alumni or something that are doing stuff in the world.
I saw a really good TikTok post the other day about a woman who did undergrad at JMU and who did graduate school at UNC. And JMU beat UNC 70-50 this past weekend. So she was like, as a proud like JMU grad, I'm so happy my school put up 70. But as a, UNC master's program, I don't ever want to look at JMU again, which I thought was super funny. So, but imagine like Texas State in a world where, because I think there's a fair amount of Bobcats who go get their masters from schools like A&M or Texas or Tech. And imagine you play, Texas State plays, and then you're on the wrong side of one of those games. Or God forbid you graduated in 2014, and then you see Texas State beat Houston. You go to Houston for your masters, and then you see Texas State lose 66-3. Imagine being like, "Ooh, I don't know how I feel about this."
Yikes, spikes. I wish I could say too that looking back on that Arizona State loss, like, oh, Arizona State was the team of the century, and they rode off into the sunset. They lost to Tech the next week, so kind of a bummer for us.
Well,
and I picked that game too. I thought Tech was going to come out swinging.
But what do you think? Do you think that, like, would you rather Arizona State win the Big 12 and be like, oh, we almost, last year we beat Baylor, and Baylor was one of the worst teams in college football. That's what I guess I was trying to get at between like the no good losses thing. Like, oh, yeah.
Maybe that was a good loss potentially. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a resume thing.
If Arizona State's bowl eligible, and we have 2 losses, one of them is to Arizona State, and the other one's to Louisiana, who will probably be bowl eligible too. I don't think it's the end of the world. Like I said, I think Texas State's they own their own destiny. They still own their own destiny if they or control their own destiny. If they win the Sun Belt, they probably get into the playoffs.
The drop off was insane though from the hype train after that Arizona State loss. I'm sure you saw it, but timeline was dead on that next. I think it was Friday. Friday was dead. Monday next.
We were all tired, dude.
Dead.
We were tired. I don't know what you
3
want.
games in 12 days. Yeah, I guess it got to us. I was exhausted.
Yeah. Good bye week. Recouped. Last week's slate of games was awful.
Now you and me get a road trip together. Whoop whoop.
Yeah. Yep. I'm pumped.
Excited.
Yeah.
We'll link up with our little Houston alumni chapter.
What's the spread? Yeah. Come we're gonna probably do some stand-ups, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go do some open mic, hit some open mics after.
We could. I have material if we want to do that.
You're talking about hanging out at the tailgate, though, yeah.
Texas State is an 8-point favorite as of recording.
We just got our parking pass. waiting on the credentials. How does that happen?
So somehow we're big favorites on the money line, minus 300 on the money line,
What?
but only 8-point spreads.
For this game?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. But the line will move. It's Tuesday we're recording this, so.
What do you think it comes down to?
What is
6.5?
it now? What is it now?
8.
8?
It's 8, which means there's a lot of money on Texas State.
Maybe a high 4.
You think 4.5?
Nah, never mind. I don't know. Sam Houston is a good team. Not better than Texas State.
I think it goes higher before it goes lower. I bet it gets all the way up to like 9.5. Yep. All right. There you go.
Thanks for squaring around, everybody.
Your gambling corner with Fat Boy.
Gambling's Anonymous.
Yeah, Gamblers Anonymous. Who was I talking? I was talking to somebody this weekend, and I had a 3-leg parlay, which, by the way, it hit. But he was like, "Why don't we put this in?" And I was like, because we're not gambling.
I actually gave out gambling advice in one of my stand-ups, and I cut that part out because I was
Did you really?
This will be bad. Yeah, and I cut it out. It didn't
From
air.
one of ours?
Yeah. Well, no,
Really?
not on this one, but like those that I do on the stadium by myself.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4-leg parlay over the weekend for 25 buckarooskies.
It's not bad. Plus, you got it hard because you do that player prop stuff.
Yep. Yeah,
see, I take, and again, this is free advice from Uncle Andy. I do either the points or the money line, and then I combine it with a player prop. So it's like it's a same game parlay essentially.
Yeah.
And so last week, over on 26.5 rushing for Arch, and then there was one. It was like plus 5,000. It was like, will he throw and run for a touchdown? And I was like, I don't think he's gonna run for one.
Those were some of the prettiest footballs I've ever seen thrown on Saturday against
From Arch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful football.
Arch Manning, famously not Archie.
Arch Manning, good at football.
Yeah. Arch Manning, number 1 quarterback in his class. By the way, ULM, you dumb, stupid program. Why in the world would you lie about saying that you had players who beat Arch in high school? Why would you say that when it's so easily fact-checked? It's the easiest thing to fact-check in the world. Hey, how many of these guys went to high schools that Arch played? How many of those teams beat Arch? Guess what? None of them. Why would you lie? Why in the world would you lie about that? That's so
sick uniforms,
dumb.
though. They had the Warhawk thing on.
Oh, man.
Pretty sick.
Like,
good showing for the Sun Belt school.
let me tell you, of all of the programs who get excommunicated in realignment, I hope ULM falls into the ocean. Like, they're awful. They're terrible. They're not good at anything.
Their
What
poor
sport are
coach
they?
on Monday morning was like, well, we faced a great broke.
I'm Mr. Title IX. I can't remember a women's program at ULM who did anything worth mentioning. When we do the preseason polls for like basketball, I'm never like, well, the Warhawks are going to be good. No, I never. For volleyball, we just talked to Sean Hewitt. He's not, I'm really worried about ULM. No, track and field, couldn't tell you.
Nope.
Couldn't tell you.
Texas State reigns supreme in track and field.
They got poop brown jerseys. Okay. Their student
like
athletes
deep red or something.
Their student athletes look like they're underfunded and underfed. Like, if there's an NIL collective for them, I think Brett Favre stole from them too, because there's no money there. You know what I mean? I don't know what ULM is doing as a crew, as a record label, and as a unit. Get them out of here. Send them home. Send them home.
As a crew, as a record label, and as a whole, get them out of here.
I don't know. I would rather have like St. Bernadette's women's and boys or women's and girls school who only exclusively plays like rowing and volleyball. I'd rather have them as a Sunbelt school than ULM. Get them out.
As the team that could not win the most in the Sun Belt at one point, I'll never speak down on the odd duck out of the races every year.
Dude, it was us and it was ULM as the two awful programs. And
Worst
it was like,
teams in the Sun Belt. And they're both in the West.
And they're both in the West. Terry Bowden, what are you doing over there, buddy? Get him out.
JMU world beaters. So if that does shape up for Texas State JMU in San Marcos or at James Madison, that'll be very.
They almost killed Mac Brown, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Mac Brown was like, maybe I need to quit. Mac Brown, who's coached for 1 billion years.
He was Brown, by the way, who was the chair of UTRGV's feasibility study to bring football to campus.
Really?
You know that? Yeah, 7
Where does
years
he
ago.
live?
North Carolina now.
But like, does he have a summer home in like the Valley?
In the Valley, maybe. Potential
Could that
winter
be-
Texan.
where
Potential
would
winter
you-
Texan, Mac Brown.
Where would you put living in the Valley on like the worst places to have a summer home?
Dude, this place is like New York City now. It's crazy.
So like
I let that go. Yeah.
So
I'll stand on that.
all right, so let's say you and me are talking, and it's like, hey, we're going to the summer house, and I take you to Omaha, Nebraska.
Well, if you tell me it's your summer home is in Donna, Texas, I'm like, okay. If you tell me it's in McAllen, you're like, oh. You tell me it's in Brownsville or like on the beach, I'm like, oh, okay. Word.
Little South Padre Island.
Weslaco,
action.
Texas, where our lovely friend
Ooh.
Sonia is from.
I'll tell you, I was on one of the dating apps, and there was a girl from Weslaco, and I turned to my coworker who's from the South Side, and I was like, "What do you think about the Valley girls?" He goes, "Where's she from?" I said, "Weslaco." He said,
Run,
"Dangerous."
brother.
He said,
Run.
"Dangerous."
Yeah.
956, right?
956.
Yeah. He said, if that's the area code with the girl's number that you get, delete it. Block contact.
Hey, I'm the girl from the Valley with the 956 area code. Don't block me.
Yeah. It's a dangerous game we're out here.
Thanks for squaring, everybody.
I'm a big game. I got people hunting me, buddy. I'm like the elephant on the safari. I got women are coming at me being like, can I get a green card, Poppy? I'm like, hey.
We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges. Better not come any closer.
Thanks for listening. New episodes out every Thursday. Follow the boys on Twitter. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up.